All right, musically speaking, I don't know who the hell that is because I've yet to decide who to toss up here on the beginning of the show. But I'm sure it'll be something of just fine and dandy par usual. Either way, this is Jason, and this is Hexes and Soldiers episode number 44. Still hanging in there for dear life. Speaking of which, with this show, I feel like I've kind of neglected it a bit last few episodes. Feel like I've just been running through the motions. It might come off that way to you as well. I apologize. I don't want to go for too long of a period without putting something up. Then again, probably shouldn't put something up just to put something up. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this. But anyway, I think this show needs a little bit more attention than it's received of late. And a new, fresh approach would perhaps best be kickstarted, if you would, by a new show trailer, which I put together. I'm pretty happy with. I hope everybody saw that and loved it beginning of the show. And yeah, I thought if I did a new trailer, that would maybe usher in a similar perspective, a similar way of approaching this show from here on out. Again, this show has been neglected a bit and it requires a bit more attention than I've been giving it. I apologize to the listeners. I hope I can do better, and I plan to. So, all that junk out of the way. Like to give a few shout outs. Let's give a shout out to all the wargamers out there, and specifically all the wargamers who do not clip counters. That's right, you heretical, blasphemous wargamers out there that do not clip counters. I am one of them. Why? Uh, I don't know if I'd call it laziness, but I just have never found myself inspired to sit and clip corners of pieces. I'd rather play the game, if that makes any sense. Uh, don't get me wrong, all the preliminary stuff that leads up to playing, setting up everything, I love that as well, but I just can't bring myself to clip. If somebody wanted to do it for me, I don't know that I would stop them. And yes, when you get some of those burrs or whatever you call them from punching, that can be not only unsightly but cumbersome when you have stacks of pieces to maneuver across the board. So maybe I should clip, but I don't, and don't see myself doing it anytime soon. Just don't really, I guess, have the time. And speaking of time, the days of doing a full show from beginning to end, I think those are on the way out as well. The show that you are listening to currently, I plan to break down into at least two, perhaps three parts, three separate recordings, that is, and then mash them all together and put the finished product out there for you. It just seems like I don't get enough time alone, no complaints. Feel kind of weird talking about the stuff I talk about with the significant other in the other room because I know how she feels about this stuff, and little to nothing. That's how she feels about this stuff. So I could feel the hate for the topic, even if she's in the other room, X-raying through the wall into me, and so would prefer not to do that when she's around. As far as free time to do it, the library job, eats a lot of that up. Again, no complaints. Glad I got it. And then game design, gameplay, eat, sleep, restroom. It's just no time. But I found myself with some free time today, and I thought I'd start on a new episode. So that's what I've begun. And how have I been? You ask. Did I hear somebody out there ask that? Thank you. I've been, I've been well, actually. I have to say, I can't complain out loud. Nobody would listen. But I've been well. The big move happened, and well, for those of you that have lost track or never knew, when I moved down here to be with my lovely girlfriend, who was a student at the University of New Orleans, lived in a graduate school housing unit, which basically consisted of a tiny one bedroom dorm room, more or less. And was able to cram a desk and all my games into part of the bedroom against a wall, and could never access anything without pulling out layers and layers and layers of games to get at something in the back, which meant I tended not to get it at something at the back unless it was desperately needed. So it was a mess, not conducive to anything. But made it 2 years there, and have since moved into, I guess you would call this a shotgun house. It's a big long house split down the middle. We have neighbors on one side and us on the other. And you could open the front door in theory and open the back door and see through the doors. Well, yes and no, but it is a long house consisting of four great rooms. I don't know if these are 10-foot ceilings, 12-foot ceilings, but huge ceilings, and so much space. Just because I could, I rode my bike from the front door to the back door and back nonstop, unencumbered, just because I could. That was a nice feeling. So early on, I staked my claim to some territory. That would be the not the first room you enter when you come through the front door, but the second, and built some shelves proper the way you need to. Didn't want to do the cinder block wood thing, so I just built textbook shelves, and I have to say, very happy with them. The dimensions are perfect. No wasted space. Games fit nicely, easily accessible. All of them quickly can be scanned to pull something out. And then the desk in front of the games. I have a picture of this that I put up on Hexes and Soldiers Facebook page, as well as a video on this channel that you can watch if you haven't yet. And it feels nice, feels good, it's roomy. Again, everything's accessible. The game table may need to be expanded as now I have a computer on it, whereas before the computer was on the little bar thing that separated the kitchen and the living room at the Uno apartment, and that's basically it. But glad to be here with my little area, and do not have central air here, which is a challenge, but we do have 3 window units, which is just great for creating humidity. And as we all know, cardboard and paper loves humidity. And if that wasn't enough, I had to complicate things further by getting a small four-legged furry thing that has whiskers and cries a lot. And this cat is a darling of a lady. I guess you'd call it a kitten. And we have a lot in store for us, I am sure, because as soon as that thing is able to jump the height that a typical cat can jump, I'm sure it will be, which worries me because the game table is defenseless. It is. I guess I'll have to create some sort of top that I can put over it when I'm not using it. I'll have to think of something, but that day is fast coming, and I'll need to come up with something because I've had cats in the past, and I know how they are, and they're interested in about everything. So I'll have to be aware of that. What else? Um, yeah, the house is nice. Great porch on the front. Wonderful neighborhood. We're about a mile from the French Quarter in Bayou St. John, and about 4 blocks from the Bayou. So all is well there. What else? The job is great. I wish I could personally introduce you to at least a half a dozen, perhaps a dozen individuals. I would love to have you make their acquaintance because they are characters to say the least. Got one guy. Actually, I got a couple people. We have a lot of movies, DVDs at the library that we loan out. And a couple people that come in personally looking for me for recommendations, which is, I guess, flattering. But we have this one guy. He's in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, and I feel bad for the guy. I really do. But he's reckless driving, and he'll run you down and run over your feet. Reminds me of another guy I used to know in Colombia. He would always drink and then try and talk to you and run over your feet and run under your shins. And I'm like, dude, just talk to me. You don't have to. Anyway, this guy comes in as usual. But the other day he comes in slams into the information desk, like side swipes it as he's coming by at full speed. Luckily, nobody was there. And before I can even register what's going on or say anything, you got any war movies? Yeah, we got war movies. You come in here all the time and ask for 'em. Well, what's your? I don't. I want to watch some war movies. I'm like, okay. So rather than I've done this before, so rather than sit there and try and pull up individual titles on the computer and have them shoot them down, we walk over to the rows and rows and rows of DVDs and point out a few as I'm perusing the shelves. And what about this one? What about? I think I got him. Patton was the best I could do. There was a number of movies that I would love to have him watch that we either don't have or they're checked out. Give him Patton. He had found a couple other crap things. I don't wouldn't have recommended it to him, but they were action. And he says, "You got anything Navy? I like ships. Anything Navy." I said, "Well, yeah, we got stuff like that." He's like, "No, I don't want them just floating around or anything. I want them shooting at each other." I'm like, "Oh, all right, yeah. Well, I'll see what I can do." And then I was like, "Well, what about Civil War?" Because I was going to recommend a movie, Glory. It's a great movie. It's got some action in there. He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's Civil War." He's like, "That's what horses?" Yeah, I don't like horses. Okay, so I can't watch that. Meanwhile, I'm trying to find Tora, or even Pearl Harbor would work at this point. And the guy's decided what he has is sufficient, and he motors off. Chess League Saturdays are going well, started by me, and I get my butt kicked every Saturday. Every once in a while, I get lucky, but for the most part, Chess League Saturdays are a lesson in humility. I leave every Saturday after work about as humbled as a person can be. You just got guys that, if you saw them on the street, I think they probably are homeless. You wouldn't think much of them, but set them down in front of a chessboard and they're just unstoppable. These people are wizards, chess magicians. I don't get it. Obviously, they've been playing since they could walk and have continued to do so into adulthood, and it shows. These guys are phenomenal. But that's a lot of fun. Chess League Saturdays, and would sure love to introduce some other games, specifically war games. But I don't know that they would take off that well. So, but that would definitely be a lot of fun, especially if I could get ASL Saturdays going. But not going to happen. What else? What else? What else? H&S Games, my little game company, is doing all right. Platoon leader, the offshoots, and Ostfront, all's kind of quiet these days. Thought a few months ago it'd be time for something relatively new, and looking back at Platoon leader, seems like as happy as I am with that game, there's so much more room uh, to not just necessarily improve upon, but to expand in general. And I thought, that's what I'll do. So, being very careful, I promise you, being very careful not to lose in the process that which endeared Platoon Leader to the people that have played and grown to love the game. Trying to better that which is good, trying to get rid of or change that which is not necessarily bad, but doesn't belong or doesn't work, if you will. The first thing I could come up with was the single map, not just graphically speaking, but having just one 8.5 by 11 map, not going to work. It works, but I mean, the shelf life of that thing is 5 minutes. Best thing I could come up with was terrain cards. Terrain cards are an easy way, cost effective way to allow the gamer to create and recreate a number of map variations, and it works fantastically. That is probably the biggest change right off the bat. A couple other things, again, regarding advanced platoon leader. um, I guess the next major thing would be what I am calling the fire intensity die, and this die is fast becoming the linchpin of combat. You've got your hit dice you can roll, and that's all just swell as can be. But the fire intensity die adds, I guess you could also substitute flavor in place of fire and call it the flavor intensity die. This is what's going to determine if this single die, this seemingly innocent looking little red die, will determine if fire cowers, if you suppress, if you take a morale check, the extent of the morale check. If nothing, it's just I can't be more excited about this. Again, tiny, trivial looking die. Everything is now seeming to evolve and revolve around it. That is not a bad thing, trust me. Uh, Very cool mechanic. So I guess one last thing, yeah, where before you would tally up and keep track of suppression counters, etc. You don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you don't even need suppression counters. Suppression has been structured in such a way that when a unit becomes suppressed, it loses an action. If it's becomes suppressed again, it loses another action. If there are no actions to lose and it becomes suppressed again, doesn't matter. The unit can't do anything either way. It is spent. So that solves a lot of unnecessary, superfluous note taking and stacking of suppression markers. And I won't go into everything here, but suffice to say, streamlining, um, making this thing better. I'll leave it at that. So that's Advanced Platoon Leader. Very excited about it. I'm not trying to rush this thing. I tentatively set a date for first quarter 2017. If I don't make it, fine, push the date back. Um, this thing is going to be play tested to death, and this will be introduced into the public sphere in order for that to take place. I know I've said that in the past, and hadn't done it or did it in a limited fashion, but I'm calling this you got your game. It isn't our game; it's your game. That said, we're laying down the ground rules here, but as far as detailing it, getting it to play the way it should, we're going to have you guys help us out with that. So that should be a lot of fun as well. Am I leaving anything out? Can I think of anything else? Happy to be here in the new house. Location great. Job wonderful. Game shelves, games, desk, game area. Cat, girlfriend. It seems like we got the whole domestic starter kit, except we're missing the kids in the garage, which I don't miss. I can do without the kids. Now, garage could be cool because you could set up a whole gaming area in there. So I guess if I had to pick between kids and the garage, I'd have to take the garage. Sorry. You can't. The kids don't provide a lot of space to game on. I guess you could lay them down and game on their back. I don't know. Anyway, I think that about covers it. So yeah, I've been doing well. Oh, I meant to tell you also. Joseph Balkoski, game designer, author, um, authority on the 29th Infantry Division, was able to see him speak recently at the World War II History Museum. Now I'm only about 5 minutes drive from that place, so I had to go. And I thought, no offense, but the 29th Infantry Division, it's not necessarily something that I'm overly interested in. It'll be entertaining, I guess, if not perhaps a bit dry. Let me tell you, this guy from start to finish had me on the edge of my seat. Now, he went into this thing showing us a picture from Life magazine a long time ago, from during the war. And this is a picture of a soldier who is crossing a footbridge into Germany. Well, I guess I should say he has been shot and currently laying dead on the bridge. But at one point, obviously, he was crossing with a soldier crossing the same bridge behind him, and then of course you get the guy who stopped in front of the fallen gentleman who took the picture. So, gist of this thing is, who is this guy? Nobody knew. There's no credit under the picture in the magazine. So he proceeds to tell us the whole a sleuth mystery story that he uh, embarked upon in trying to figure this out, and the twists and turns in this story, and it was just fantastic. um, at one point, he ends up at this fallen soldier's parents' house and is asking them about him, and they're like, "Yeah," giving as much information as they can, and not really realizing this. Oh, I should back up. They say, "We have all those Life magazines in our attic." Now, how eerie is that? That during the war, they were flipping through those magazines. I guess they don't know what happened to their son specifically. So during the war, they've got all these Life magazines they're receiving. They're looking. They saw their son dead on that bridge and didn't know it was him because he was face down. How eerie is that? But and then there was one other interesting aspect that right before that soldier was shot, actually a couple things. The night before, he requested to write a letter home because he didn't think he was going to make it the next day. Not sure how he knew that, or if it was self-fulfilling prophecy. Who knows? Request to write a letter home, and of course, the next day he's shot. Exactly, almost I think a year after he enlisted. But there was, I forget who wrote it, but there was someone that had written a letter on his behalf because back in the day during the war, if you were from a family that had a farm and there was nobody to help do farm work, you qualified for exemption from the military to stay home and do everything a farm entails. So a letter on his behalf was sent in to, I don't know, War Department, somebody, requesting that he would be better served at home because they have nobody to help them with their farm, etc., etc., etc. He almost just made it. That letter almost got through in time for him to come home. He wouldn't have been killed, but it just missed. And instead, he was shot. And yeah, so Balkoski is able to give recounts of these various interviews, and he finds another gentleman, and he says, "Do you know so and so?" And he's like, "Yeah, that was my best friend. I had to watch him get shot in front of me." I mean, just the connections and the dovetailings of stories is just phenomenal with this little story that he presented, and I was thoroughly entertained, and so glad I went. Um, so I don't know if he plans to give this presentation again at any point. If he does, get off your butt and go see it, not just because of who it is. Anybody else would have told this story, I would have been just as riveted. It really is a fantastic story. So that leaves Joseph Balkoski. I just had something in my head and I drew a blank. Yes. I don't know how many times I've gone into the basement of the library I work at, where all things owned by the government are held. Not everything, but a lot of things in the basement. And yes, there's a basement in this library in New Orleans, which sounds weird, but it's never leaked, never flooded, and during Katrina, the library escaped unscathed for the most part. But there's all this stuff from the government down there. You know, and there's a lot about World War One, and there's a lot about the Civil War, but I could never find anything about World War Two. And I always wondered about that. Was it just not kept here? Did the World War Two History Museum come through here and clean it out, which they've been known to do on occasion with some things? But I thought, for God's sakes, there's got to be something down here. So one day, my boss, knowing full well my interest in all things World War Two, comes up and he says, "You got to come down and look at this." So I come downstairs and, oh yeah, what's he got? Something he's going to think that I think is cool, and I'm going to have to humor him and be like, "Yeah, that's great." He, the best analogy I can come up with is a mine that you dig in and you dig in, and then you hit a vein of gold, and as you go deeper, that vein just opens up, and it's just a gold mine. So what he had found was these fold out, uh, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say map, but when you have a map that goes in your glove box that folds out, something similar to that from the War Department during World War II. So 41, 42, 43, etc. From those years specifically, and I kid you not, those things, I don't think they had been opened up and or unfolded since they were put there. Who knows when? And my lord, apparently back in the day, there were these things, which I'm not really sure what to call yet, but they would be placed, I guess, in recruiting centers, on the walls of mess halls, and bunk areas. And on one side would be the news of the week, I guess, what's been going on, a map with progression of troops and whatnot. On the other side would be these awesome illustrations, these propaganda type illustrations, um, depicting uniforms, equipment, soldiers, scenes. What it's just beautiful stuff, and I'm not doing it any justice by describing it. You really need to see it, and fully intend to do a um, video unveiling the ones that I was able to walk home with. And let me tell you, when we're looking at this stuff, and I don't, one of them is a depicts all the German uniforms, and I've seen pictures of this thing on the internet, but I've never knew what it was from or seen one in real life. And that's what this was, a full photo, fold out. I mean, this thing's huge. Page depicting all the German uniforms for American troops to learn and recognize. And he says, no one would be the wiser if it's probably terrible that he said this. Uh, but he's my boss, and he said no one would probably be the wiser if a few of these were lost. Meaning, take a couple home, love them, put them on the wall, be happy. So that's what I did. I liberated a few of them, and didn't feel bad about it. I left the bulk of them. When I say bulk, there's probably hundreds of these things. I think it took half a dozen, and they will be loved and cared for. But I'm going to show you guys these things at some point. They're very interesting, and just a chunk of history, literally, a physical piece of history. I tell you, I don't think these things have been opened up since they were put there, probably in the 40s. So very exciting to find those, and I thought I'd share that with you guys. So I think that covers it. What have I been gaming lately? Advanced Platoon Leader, that's what I've been gaming. Trying to work out. I just banged out a really nice, not to get on that again, but that's what I've been playing. So really nice AI system for it. Roughly encompasses 2 pages. I've said this before, but it is logical yet unpredictable. I'm very excited about that as well. Still got a couple of fundamental things to work out. The activation of German units. I'm trying to do something a little more in depth as opposed to the old platoon leader style regarding that, and just banging out combat after combat. But a lot of fun with that, and I picked up finally old school tactical. I thought, heard enough about this damn thing. Let's see what the hubbub is, and the hubbub that is out there is deserved. The thing is, physically, it's heavy, it's thick. You feel like you get some quality because it is quality. And if you hear voices out there, that would be the neighbors. Not sure what they're doing, but again, we have these window units and the little stretchy things that go on either side of the window unit do not create much of a sound barrier. So I don't know what they're doing out there, but whatever. Yeah, so old school tactical, fantastic game. Did I say fantastic? Yeah, I wasn't sure. It's fantastic. And I also picked up the Stalingrad expansion map. So when you get this thing, get the expansion map as well, and get them fast because I don't know if this thing's going to get reprinted. You can't roll the dice on this. You don't want to miss out on this. This might end up being one of those things that just ends up on eBay for like $300. Get it now while you can. I don't know who Mark Walker is. I have never talked to the man. I'm not trying to do him any favors, but I stand behind the game. Pick it up. It's it's similar to ASL, but not quite as complex. I think it's better than Combat Commander, but that shouldn't surprise anybody that knows me. The way that impulses are used for actions, yeah, that's my cup of tea. That's exactly Platoon Leader. So I like it. It's a great game. Been messing around with that, and happy to do so. That's really about it. The move has taken a lot out of me, and building shelves and organizing and whatnot. So I think that about covers what I've been playing. And I guess I should add this show can be broken down into three parts. The first part we just completed. Second part is going to be a old school top 10 list. Top 10 MMP games according to Board Game Geekers. And then the core of the show, part three, we'll get into eventually. That will probably consist of a later recording. And again, like I said, we'll mash all this together. So, part two of the show, top 10 board games according to uh, top 10 multi-man publishing board games. According to Board Game Geekers, not sure how I feel about Board Game Geekers and top 10s, but I have to pull this up again, so bear with me. The way I do this is, somebody asked this in the past, how did you determine the top 10 regarding this or that? Well, if you plug in a game, it'll have a rank, an overall rank, and a wargame rank. And and I haven't talked to you in so long. How do you guys feel about the new? I guess it's not so much new now. New-ish style that they've gone to for Board Game Geek. I don't necessarily dislike it. I know a lot of people were whining about it, but let's see. Once you get used to it, it's fine. I don't see a problem with it. In fact, I might like it a little better as far as graphically speaking. But so you find a game, you click on the war. Now it just says war rank. You have overall and then war. So if you click on ASL, hit war, it'll take you to the rank of that game, highlighted, and then you just work your way down. So we'll start from the bottom up, and I'll begin with honorable mention. Now, honorable mention consists of Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2. Obviously, replaces the original Guderian's Blitzkrieg. The gamers is when who put this thing out originally, and the second one came out in 2001. That brings us to Case Blue, and these can be connected into one giant game. And Case Blue, I own both of these. Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2, I had a little bit of fun with. Case Blue is okay. It just depends on what your bag is, what your shtick is. Geographically speaking, time periods. Well, what is your desire? I mean, do you want to do the Southern Barbarossa phase? Do you want to do Army Group Center? You want to do Army Group Center stuff? I believe that's Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2. If you want to do the Southern stuff, that's Case Blue. And not that he needs any more attention drawn to him, but Kev Sharp, who I have fondly referred to as the ambassador of wargaming, has some pretty darn good videos. The man's very prolific with his video posting of OCS system, and that's what these are: Case Blue, Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2, Operational Combat Series. And if I could digress for a second or two, that reminds me, if you go to MMP, they have this thing called Yanks, which is never going to come out. No, that's a joke, but I'm anxious. They have this thing called Operational Matters and OCS Guide with Sicily 2, now shipping to pre-order. So if you're still curious about the OCS system, if you had to dip your toe in the OCS waters, pick this up, see what you think, and then go from there. But this thing is 36 bucks on pre-order, $48 retail, and it is a great way to introduce yourself to the world of OCS, get a taste of it, see what you think, before you hop right into, say, yeah, Guderian's Blitzkrieg or Case Blue or DAC 2 or anything like that. So I would recommend that route. But to go back to what I was saying, where was I? Kev Sharp got some great videos. You could also go that route. See what you think of the game system. That brings us to number 9, Warriors of God. And this kind of surprised me a bit. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. I suppose the theme or subject matter is what surprises me the most. That it has met with such a warm welcome. I've yet to play it. Maybe it has something to do with the way it plays. Maybe it plays wonderfully, or maybe both. What am I talking about specifically? Well, the Hundred Years' War was a pivotal event in medieval European history, as we all know. And Warriors of God M&P and Game Journal magazine have joined hands to bring unique perspectives to this conflict. As always, playability matched with historical accuracy has been achieved to a remarkable degree. Players move their leaders and units using a unique impulse game system that shows both the strategy and tactics of the period. The game also recreates the massive swings of fortune, which were so much a part of the Hundred Years' War. Even with such a simple and easy learned system, all the special rules necessary to give players a full feel for the period are here: archers, Joan of Arc, and much, much more. Designed by Makoto Nakajima, Adam Starkweather had a hand in developing it, and yeah, so what do we have here? 2008 Charles S. Roberts pre-World War II era board game winner, and about a half a dozen other nominees. So you guys like it apparently, and Wargame rank of 87, M&P rank of 9. That brings us to DAC 2, number 8, their Africa Core OCS system in Africa. Need I say more? Number 8. Number 7, something I am completely unfamiliar with. Angola came out in 1998 and recreates a brief portion of the violent decades-long Angolan civil war that began in the 70s with the fall of a colonial power and dragged its bloody way into the 21st century thanks in part to Cold War politics. Now, I'm sure there are a number of you that will just eat this up. I don't know that I'd be able to digest this. So I will continue to stray from it. Multiplayer game, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. Which players control the various Soviet and U.S. backed factions that vied for control of Angola. A number of innovative game systems are featured here that keep players guessing, create plenty of tension, and reward the right balance of boldness and caution. Looks like the map is divided into areas. Let's see. They say as comes across as a tense game of poker with players trying to analyze the map and outguess their enemies. Yeah, I don't know about Angola. I think I'll leave that for somebody else. That's number 7 though in the top 10 MMP games according to Board Game Geekers. Geekers. All right, number 6. Drum roll. Ready? Great game. I own it. Played it and loved it. A victory lost. A harsh cold wind blows across the steppes of Russia. And it actually includes a wind machine. No, that's a joke. With a flurry of thundering explosions, the Russian offensive Operation Saturn begins. Can the Russians encircle and trap the extended German armies? A Victory Lost was designed by Tetsuya Nakamura, who also designed MMP's Fire in the Sky, and starts with the Russian offensive through Manstein's famous backhand blow. Comes with a 34-inch by 24-inch map, of which I am a big fan. You get a single counter sheet of 280 counters, 16-page full-color rule book, one player aid card, and 2 dice. And this thing was the James F. Dunnigan Award winner for 2006. Charles S. Roberts, Best World War II board game winner in 2006. Charles S. Roberts, Best Wargame Graphics winner in the same year, and a ton of nominations. So, you guys haven't picked this up and played it, please do. That brings us to number 5. The Devil's Cauldron, the battles for Arnhem and Nijmegen. That is number 5. And this game um, is part of Adam Starkweather's brainchild, the Grand Tactical series, and he's got a couple of games out now dealing with that. I'll be honest with you, if you want, what is the game on Arnhem? What is it? What is the game? This is it. There, nothing else out there compares to this. I don't know that anything that else you can do. There's anything else you can do to better this. This is it. Now, there's a lot required by way of investment, not just price, but time to learn. But I got to tell you, this is the game. If you only could own one game on the Battle of Arnhem, this is it. It's here. It exists. It is the ideal. I don't want to say perfect because I don't believe there's any such thing as perfect, but it's pretty damn close. Game is fantastic. Um, Looks like this was the Walter Luke Haas Best Simulation winner. Who the heck is Walter Luke Haas? 2009. A number of other nominees, but this is 42 overall of all the war games. This is in the top 50 of all of them, and this would be number 5 in MMP's top 10 war games. So, Devil's Cauldron. If you got the money, if you got the time, if you got the inclination, take it from me. You need this game. That brings us to number 4, and the rest of these from here on out. All right, welcome back, everybody. Since I last talked to you, a neighbor's now decided to use his circular saw to cut wood. Hopefully that doesn't interfere too much. It's audible, but I don't think it is going to drown anything out. So, for the third part of the show, we have 4 concepts, game mechanics, that I'd like to go over. And I guess you could call this the, with morale checks, you're checking to see how willing a unit is to fight. This would be the opposite of that. I'm talking about fanaticism, berserk, human wave, and banzai. We'll tackle each one in turn. Let you guys know a little more about this and take it from there. So, starting with fanaticism, I'm not exactly sure where this concept got its start. I'm going to attribute it to the original squad leader game. And where is this at? And if you look at the original rule book for squad leader, there is an entry at 26.3 known as fanaticism, and the kitten has decided to start crying. Let's see. For the original squad leader game, it says fanaticism is a special rule used only in scenarios 2 and 3, but is included here as a reference. Let's see. Sometimes due to terrain, position, or special circumstances, a group of units will be classified as fanatic and receive a special -1 dice roll modifier for all morale checks and rally attempts. This is equivalent to raising the morale rating of affected units by 1. Fanaticism is used only when called for by the scenario in play. So, in scenario 2 and 3, the fanaticism benefit applies only to Russian units inside the tractor works. So, and I was already going to mention that the tractor works scenario as an example of fanaticism. And fanaticism benefit is gained and lost solely through occupation of the factory. Russian units which enter or start the game inside the building are fanatic. Those outside or which leave the factory have no fanaticism benefit. You can also look at Pavlov's house, another ASL scenario that personifies what fanaticism is. What else do we have here? Then if you move to the ASL rules proper under fanaticism, it says it is evoked only by special scenario rule or battle hardening to depict particularly heroic or desperate performances in a particular situation. Um, a single man counter created from an already fanatic multi man counter is also fanatic, and any unit classified as fanatic has both its normal and broken morale levels increased by 1 and is not subject to cowering, surrendering by the route phase method, or the PAATC. Fanatic troops are not subject to disruption, although they can be reduced slash broken normally for all purposes of unit substitution. That is 10.8 in the ASL Big Book. So regarding fanaticism, which I suppose is where the term fan comes from, fanatic, a couple of ways you could look at this fanaticism as courage, but then you could say one man's courage is another's insanity. What else? We will break into berserk. You know, when you have Russian troops that are going to be shot if they retreat and don't march forward in the battle, are they necessarily fanatic, or do they just want to survive? So there's different ways to splice this and examine it, but that's one a mechanic, fanaticism, and again, it crops up in squad leader, advanced squad leader as well. I'm not sure of any other games out there that deal with this. Surely there are additional games that deal with it, but that covers fanaticism. And then moving along to the second concept, berserk. We've got an interesting thread on Board Game Geek that kind of deals with this. So if you go to, where do you go? If you type in Wargames, Board Game Geek thread, Berserk Soviet Soldiers, you'll come across this two-page thread that kind of unravels rather quickly. But the initial thing that is posed is posed by Mike. Sorry, I'm going to butcher this. Mike Zarka, who says the berserk Russian, and berserk in quotes, Russian soldiers seems to have created a chrome rule in several tactical gaming systems. For example, ASL up front. Conflict of Heroes, not sure about that, except not confined to Russians by the game system. What historical evidence is there that such things actually happened, and that soldiers of one nation were more prone to it? Is it viewed as purely a World War II phenomenon? I have not seen this sort of thing modeled in modern Napoleonic World War I or American Civil War games, although I'm not much of a tactical gamer, so can't say for sure. Perhaps it was the normal state of affairs in ancient battles, just wondering. And then, of course, you can imagine all the responses. First response is by "Oh my God, they banned Kenny," aka Dead Kenny. Perhaps it would be more accurate to call it the NKVD blocking battalions will machine gun you if you fail to charge through the German minefield under German machine gun fire rule. However, Berserk is a lot shorter. Um, Another gentleman says it's common in all conflicts across history. Read the stories of anyone that won a U.S. Medal of Honor or a Victoria Cross. Typically, people who've done quote-unquote berserk (parentheses heroic) things in the terrific stress of combat and was witnessed by others who survived to tell the tale. And what else we have here? Another clever response. I think he's talking more about mass attacks like whole companies or battalions at a time. Vodka plus NKVD slash commissar encouragement from what I've read. The Russians being the descendants of the Viking tribes called the Rus, it makes sense they go berserk on battlefields. It is their tradition. And that brings me to another point. The etymology of the word berserk, coming from another word, that being berserker. Now, berserkers were champion Norse warriors who primarily reported in the Old Norse literature to have fought in a nearly uncontrollable trance-like fury, a characteristic which later gave rise to the English word berserk. It says these Viking champions would often go into battle without mail coats. The word berserk meant going into battle wearing only wolf or animal skins, and berserkers are attested to in numerous Old Norse sources. Let's see. There's a particular text that mentions berserkers who wear the pelt of a wolf when they entered battle, and were mad as hounds or wolves and bit their shields. Which that's interesting too, because the Lewis Chessman, that chess set that was discovered back in the day by some guy who thought they were fairies and ran off, got his courage built back up, came back, uncovered it, and this chess set, or a number of them, which were uncovered, went on to become perhaps the most famous archaeological find in the world of chess. Have pieces that are individually depicted, and they have pieces that are will qualify as berserkers with the I forget which ones they are, but they hold their shields in their teeth. That is to say, biting their shield in a frenzy of berserk activity. So, regarding the etymology, and then we'll get out of this, the expression most likely arose from their reputed habit of wearing a kind of shirt or coat made from the pelt of a bear. The bear was one of the animals representing Odin, and by wearing such a pelt, the warrior sought to gain the strength of a bear and the favor of Odin. The element ber was sometimes interpreted as bear, meaning bear, with Snorri Sturluson, which Snorri Sturluson understood to mean that the warriors went into battle bare-chested or without armor, as of men of Odin. The view has been largely since abandoned. So to go berserk was to hamask, which translates as change form. Um, One could transform as a berserker was typically thought of as Hamramar or Shape Strong. For example, the band of men that go with Skallagrim and Egil Saga to see King Harold about his brother Thorolf's murder, we're all familiar with that, right? Are described as the hardest of men with a touch of the uncanny about a number of them. They were built and shaped more like trolls than human beings. This is generally interpreted as the band of men being Hamramar or going berserk. So, and you can delve further into the history of the word and related topics. I won't do that here, but again, you have berserk being dealt with. I have this marked, but it looks like I've marked it in the wrong spot. There we go, 18.4 in the original rulebook. If when making a morale check for a Russian infantry unit due to enemy fire, a 2 is rolled, the unit becomes berserk with the following heroic consequences. He must don a bear-skinned shirt. No, that's not funny. The berserk unit is immune to all morale checks for the remainder of the scenario. Must be eliminated to be stopped. That's pretty intense. Replace it with a red counter of the same type so that it can be easily distinguished. Again, this is the original squad leader game. A berserk unit must charge the nearest enemy unit during its movement and advance phase in an attempt to destroy it in close combat. The charging unit must take the shortest route to the enemy unit, unless an alternate route will still leave it adjacent to the enemy at the end of the movement phase. Berserk units can move further than a normal squad. Let's see. They cannot carry support weapons. If a leader becomes berserk, there's a chance that all unbroken units stacked with him in the target hex will join him in berserk status. To become berserk, they must roll equal to or less than desperation morale, taking into account any leadership modifiers of the berserk leader. So that's, again, the original squad leader. And then if you move to the big book and look under berserk, berserk units are created from infantry by a final heat of battle die roll of 9 to 11. Berserk units assume a base morale level of 10, which is pretty damn good. If it fails its morale check, it is not broken, but suffers casualty reduction. Anything else? Yeah, increased movement factor again. So basically, berserk units are pretty badass, but also kind of stupid. just running out and charging. What else? So that's berserk, and then you have I think up front deals with this somewhere. If I can find it quickly. Does up front have this in there? It should. Yeah. Number of spots. Let's just quickly look at what they say. 20.9. Berserk. Yeah, any pinned Russian infantryman at relative range 5 to an enemy group who panics is not automatically removed from play if the random position number under the war column of the RNC which caused him to panic is less than or equal to his panic value. The man is not killed but is considered berserk. Berserk man automatically enters close combat as the ice cream man drives by. Uh, so yeah, sorry. Um, Up front glosses over it. ASL really handles it rather well with the heat of battle die roll, which is a great mechanic, by the way. This heat of battle thing. If I could briefly, the cauldron of battle, which destroyed so many units that failed the test of arms, could also forge better soldiers and/or acts of desperation born of heroism or despair. This process is reflected by a heat of battle die roll, which follows any original morale check or rally die roll of 2. So the possible results are you can have heroes created out of this, battle hardening, berserk, of course, and surrender. And then each nationality has a die roll modifier. So Japanese are more likely to surrender. Elite British and Finnish troops are more likely to be have heroes created. Pretty cool mechanic though. That handles berserk, and that brings us to human wave. And ASL, of course, is what we'll go to. The big book. What is it? Human wave may only be conducted by Russians and Chinese, but it also forms the basis for cavalry wave and banzai. Let's see. The attacker may declare a human wave attack during his movement phase by selecting greater than or equal to one participating multi-man counter from each hex of a chain of 3 or more adjacent contiguous hexes, as well as greater than or equal to 1 leader from any of those hexes. All the participating units must be in a contiguous chain of adjacent locations and in good order, free to move, and cannot have started their movement phase yet. Must have line of sight. At least one unit must have line of sight to an enemy unit within 8 hexes, which the chain will move towards during that movement phase. Let's see, movement range. Still reading here. They've got 8 movement factors, so that's pretty intense. And can enter enemy occupied locations, but cannot assault, move, dash, search, carry more than their inherent portage capability, or use column movement. Let's see, what else do they say here? Alright, a unit remains in human wave um, until it is eliminated, broken, out of movement factor at the end of an impulse, at the start of an impulse in a location containing an armed known enemy unit. Um, but with human wave, only it looks like only the Russians and Chinese can deal with this, are allowed to do this. Not a typical tactic of the Americans or the Germans. But Definitely used by the Russians, especially when you look at the Finnish-Russian conflict in 1939. When we read about the masses of Russian troops that were trying to overwhelm the Finns, and it just didn't work. Some of the accounts are pretty depressing when you read about it, and I can imagine simulating that in a game also could be pretty depressing. I overheard Kev Sharp talk about a particular game. I think it's a tactical combat series. Forget the name of it, but Pacific Theater, and the amount of casualties that occurred due to the Japanese just being idiots was just so heavy. He won't play it. It's just too much, and I can only imagine actually being there and witnessing this had quite an effect on the person defending against it. Not least of all the any survivors that would have made it through to the end of a human wave, which I doubt that happened too often. Anyway, that is human wave. Finally brings us to banzai, and if you are interested in banzai, which again is a kind of, I guess, human wave, there's a great article in ASL Journal issue number 9 called "The Art of the Banzai." I won't read it all, much as I'd like to. When you're done with that, turn the page, and you can read another great article called "The Science of the Banzai." Now, the science of the banzai breaks down a number of things with some illustrations. Um, with the art of the banzai, I'll read you the first couple paragraphs and then move on. But this was written by Brett Hildebrand, and it says, on the surface, the banzai charge and the human wave may not seem that different. The banzai charge is based on the human wave rules, and both launch infantry on innate movement factor, sprint at the enemy, and historically both resulted in casualties of plenty for the attackers. But the differences between the banzai charge and human wave are huge in how tactically useful each is in the game. So perhaps the most important advantage for the banzai charge is that there is no minimum multi-man counter requirement in order to launch a banzai attack. So human waves require, remember, a 2 multi-man counter average over at least 3 hexes. A banzai charge, however, can be launched by a single wounded single-man counter. Given that the typical nationality employing a human wave cannot deploy, the average human wave puts a minimum of 6 squads at risk. So in most ASL scenarios, 6 squads is quite a significant portion of the attacker's order of battle, and to focus so many assets on one particular gambit during one particular turn can be extremely risky, especially when it is near certainty that the wavers will be exposed to copious amounts of fire. An ill-timed wave can be a great way to lose a scenario quickly. The banzai charge is a much more flexible weapon in a player's arsenal because it can be launched with just the right amount of units to obtain the desired effect without risking a significant portion of your order of battle on a single tactic. So there you have it. Given a choice, launch a banzai attack. So the Japanese seem to have an advantage with this, being able to do this. So I'll let you read the article. It's a great article. And again, when you're done with that, you can read The Science of the Banzai by Jim Bishop. And this is found again in ASL Journal issue 9. Who else tackles banzai? Well, obviously ASL. If you read in the big book, briefly it says banzai charge is the Japanese version of a human wave and uses all rules applicable to human wave except as stated otherwise. Any good order Japanese infantry unit, even one single man counter, may declare a banzai charge, even if adjacent to an enemy unit. Hence, a banzai charge does not require multiple multi-men counters and greater than or equal to 3 adjacent hexes. However, units in different hexes wishing to participate in the same banzai charge must still be adjacent to greater than or equal to one other such unit in order to be part of the chain. Let's see, a leader must participate in each banzai charge. That includes greater than or equal to 1 multi-man counter. So that's how the big book speaks of banzai charge. There's another game, excuse me, that deals with this is Kawaguchi's Gamble by MMP, Edson's Ridge. And it says Japanese, in 10.9 of the rulebook, Japanese infantry units May make a special type of assault by declaring an assault phase and then further defining that assault as a banzai. A banzai bayonet charge is a form of mandatory assault. In order to banzai charge, the participating units must begin in a Japanese controlled and uncontested area adjacent to a non-vacant area that is either controlled or contested by the Americans. See, they must charge an area that is adjacent to the activated area. All units participating in the banzai charge recover one exhaustion level before the banzai charge begins. So I guess that represents a psyching themselves up. And such units are temporarily granted for the duration of the impulse 2 additional movement factors. That seems to be standard. However, all movement restrictions still apply. And there's some other modifiers as well. +1 if a leader is participating. This is for combat. +1 for company integrity. +1 to each Japanese DR. The defender receives a die roll modifier equal to the TEM of the area from which the banzai bayonet charge originates. That's interesting. So just another example. Again, that's something you can look at on your own. Kawaguchi's Gamble, Edson's Ridge deals with the banzai attack. Standard fare, you're going to find it across the board in a number of things. You could also look at what is this now? Heroes of the Pacific by Lock and Load. They deal with banzai attacks. Only Japanese units can conduct banzai attacks. A Japanese leader who is now marked with a fired, moved, assault move, low crawl, ops complete, or melee marker can initiate a banzai attack as the first action of his impulse if he is within 6 movement points, not hexes, of a spotted enemy occupied hex, and only multi-man counters and other leaders that are likewise unmarked, have yet to activate, are eligible to participate in the banzai attack. They get 6 movement points. Let's see. In melee, each unit under a banzai marker adds 1 to its inherent firepower when attacked only and can use any eligible support weapons without penalty. So they deal with it. What else do we have? The banzai module of front deals with it. And again, this is just a few things. I don't have time to go over everything. But there it is, 45.4 banzai. Any Japanese group containing a squad leader or assistant squad leader may declare a banzai attack as its sole action for that player turn by playing a movement card in the sideways mode and declaring the enemy group it is attacking. The movement card can serve no other purpose. Its sole effect can be to declare a banzai attack. Declaring a banzai attack automatically rallies all pinned men in that group. I'm going to guess increased movement factor here. Actually, some pretty intense rules regarding that, but just another example of a game that deals with it. And, so when you're looking at fanaticism, berserk, human wave, banzai, these are things that a lot of games don't take into consideration. Should every game take every one of these into consideration? Well, obviously it depends. If you're not going to worry about banzai if it's European theater, that goes without saying. But specifically berserk and fanatic, I think those are great concepts that should be considered in any tactical simulation that is worth a grain of salt. Because if you're going to have something like morale, in which a unit can break and not want to fight, you need to have the opposite. And historically, you had that, in which a unit suddenly became, again, you can argue about the terms. You can call it courageous. You could call it desperate. You could call it insane, nuts, what have you. In which a unit decided that it's balls to the wall, all out. We need to charge a particular location or take out a particular squad. Yeah, it definitely needs to be in the game. and again, is in a number of games, but the games that don't have it, yeah, I don't know if I can take them that seriously. The other question, how effective was this stuff? I don't know that that's an honest question you can ask because I don't know that it was necessarily used as an effective way to accomplish something. Now here again, you can argue with me. Um, yeah, the banzai attack was used in a tactical and I guess you could say a strategic sense to accomplish things, but I think there's more of a psychological thing going on here. It's more of a way of getting troops uh, to want to fight instead of sitting, hunkering down, hiding, um, dodging bullets, not breaking, but just kind of, I guess you could call it being suppressed. The opposite of that, you need a way to psych troops up to get to want to go into a hail of bullets, and psychologically speaking, the way you're going to at least model this in a simulation is through berserk, fanaticism, etc. So the stuff isn't made up. It reflects it reflects historical occurrences, but within the game, again, I think it's a clever way of representing a psychological state more so than an effective strategy of accomplishing something. Is that what I'm trying to say? I think that's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully that makes sense. So there's that. So again, that is Fanaticism, Berserk, Human Wave, Banzai. Another number of games deal with this stuff. It seems like they all deal with it in a similar kind of way, um, especially with Banzai and Human Wave. It seems to be increased movement factor. Um, you can have increased morale. You some of these people coming at you, you're going to need to kill. They're not going to break. They're not going to pin. So can it really spice up a game? Again, it's not necessarily an effective way to accomplish something, but it is a historical representation of what actually happened. Short of leaders inspiring, you have to take into consideration um, wills breaking, but in the opposite direction. A will that breaks perhaps out of fear, but rather than run away, they run towards in an act of, again, quote unquote, courage, but also you could say desperation. You just want to kill that which is trying to kill you. So I'll shut up about that. I'm not sure how successful I was at glossing over this stuff, but there it is. And hope you enjoyed that. So, what else? That brings us towards the end of the show. And I thought I'd give a shout out to a podcast that I discovered not too long ago. And it's one of the guys from the Idle Thumbs Network, specifically Three Moves Ahead. I forget the gentleman's name. I apologize profusely. But if I have this correctly, Wild Weasel, just put in Wargame Space and or Launch of the Wild Weasel. It's one of the gentlemen from Three Moves Ahead. He does a fairly good job. It's not long-winded. It's fairly compact, and it's a joy to listen to. So you get time, take a look at that. Um, Also, I'd like to share with you what I've been reading, and then I'll probably get out of here. So, being that I work at the library, I'm coming across all kinds of books, more books than I'll ever have time to read. But there's always been the a bit of the map maker in me. I think that's part of the reason I, as well as others, enjoy war games is because of the historical maps that are included, the representation of terrain that played a key role in how battles were determined, played out. To see this stuff represented, uh, laid out before you, as it were, is quite something to behold. That said, you should pick up a book by John Noble Wilford called The Map Makers, and I've got the revised edition, so this thing has been loved enough to get a get a revised edition out there. But it is the map makers, the story of the great pioneers in cartography from antiquity to the space age. Now I'm sure there's going to be some elements of this that are going to be a little less than interesting, but overall and so far, it's proven to be quite interesting. And yes, it is nurturing that curiosity that I have about those that make the maps. Those, what is it that drives us to represent what we see on a piece of paper in the early days, and then moving forward, the progression that this form took. And when you look at it, it really has evolved significantly. Maps, and there's all kinds of maps. There's cognitive maps, psychological maps, maps. Very important aspect of human existence. Maps are, and he gives it probably. I don't know if this is the authoritative book on it, but he gives it very um, fair amount of attention, historically speaking, and I recommend it. So that is The Map Makers, The Story of the Great Pioneers in Cartography from Antiquity to the Space Age by John Noble Wilford. Get it at any fine library or independent bookstore and enjoy it. Other than that, to reiterate, um, stay tuned. If you guys are curious, you can go to Board Game Geek. There's an advanced platoon leader entry there. I've been posting design and development briefings. I think I've got 3 now. Anything new that pops up in this thing, I try and post it and share it with you. Um, you can keep up to date with that stuff there. Also, honestly, I thought it might have been a bandwagony game, and then what I was doing was a bandwagon purchase. But no, Old School Tactical is a damn good game. You need to get it. You need to have it. You need to play it. You need to experience it. Stop watching reviews. Just get the dang thing and play it and enjoy it. It's a darn good game as far as tactical games go. Again, Combat Commander, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but Combat Commander and other similar things, they're fine and dandy. But hopefully, eventually, you're going to want something that's more has more meat on the bone, something that you can chew on, and that's Old School Tactical. And when you get tired of that, or you can just skip that, just go to ASL. I mean, honestly, some of you out there are waiting for whatever reason, I don't know why, or you're avoiding, or you think it's overrated, or whatever, or you don't want to be part of the ASL crowd. You don't have to be a part of nothing. Just do your own thing, play ASL, experience the wonder that is tactical combat via ASL, and start your life anew. It's like being baptized. Sorry, but it is. Play this game, it's going to change your life. All right, y'all. That's it for this episode of Hexes and Soldiers. I hope you enjoyed it. I tried my best. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep gaming.